Hi, welcome back. I'm joined now by Daniel Goldstone, who is the founder of a company called RangeTeller. Now, funnily enough, as you traverse events, you hear lots of Canadian accents when you're in Canada. And this bloke said, "Are you from the UK?" Because he heard me talking to someone else. So Daniel, welcome to our little Drivetime podcast on the road.
Thanks, Jackie. It's really a pleasure to be here, and also nice to hear a familiar voice.
Exactly. So it was like there was some bloke from up north, and we figured out we must know each other because we're both from the UK. So anyway, so what we're doing here is we're spending time meeting exhibitors at the Canadian Lenders Association Summit, and this event covers everything, not just automotive tech, but everything. Mm-hmm. So tell me, Daniel, a little bit about RangeTeller and what you do and why you're in Canada.
Sure. So RangeTeller is a fintech company that helps banks to more accurately identify creditworthy borrowers and issue more loans with zero extra risk.
Okay, so when you say creditworthy, so it's making sure that you validate people in the right way so that you're minimising risk for the lenders.
Correct. Okay. The problem today is banks reject millions of creditworthy applicants, mostly based on the credit score assessments. Yeah.
So are they different country by country? Because obviously we're used to things like Experian data in the UK. How different is that over here?
Yeah, you're entirely correct. So you've obviously got your large credit bureaus, so your FICO, your Experian, your Equifax, your TransUnion, your alternative credit score companies like Zest and Credit Karma and Tactile. Unfortunately, these systems are very one-dimensional. They don't work on local historical data, and they don't allow you to integrate your knowledge and experience with the model.
So you've got to try and make sure that you've got the right data points coming in for each market that you're serving, I suppose.
Exactly. And the problem is we believe the client evaluation should be made inside the bank.
Right.
So RangeTeller allows you to use your local historical data. That's the bank's loan book portfolio, which is some of the most relevant data, and allow you to formulate and assess transparent lending strategies. And it excels in identifying, as I mentioned, potentially creditworthy borrowers who are marginalised, underserved, and overlooked by the credit score rating system.
Is the data available in Canada? Or is it, because some of that data used to be available but not available, if you know what I mean? It was there, but it was kind of locked in. You couldn't access it necessarily easily. Or is the data sharing there to be able to make those decisions quickly or easily or not?
Yeah, so you're right. I think the USP, or one of the USPs about RangeTeller, is that it allows you to determine what data goes in. So you can use any local data that you have within your business.
Right.
But you can also use external data like the credit score or any open banking finance data.
Right.
You can use that and input it into RangeTeller. So you're not reliant on a third party to actually give you their secret sauce to formulate your decisions.
And obviously we're talking a lot AI, latest buzz thing. How much of that is going to start to be driven, or those decisions will start to be driven by AI, or is that still going to be, I think I heard something else in the conference, that there are certain predetermined factors that will enable or enable someone to borrow money, and they can be pretty, unpleasant factors, really.
100%. I think, as we can all see, AI is a massive trend, and what we will see is through the boom, lots of companies, high-tech companies, fall wayside because they can't deliver. I think what's important, Jackie, is that we always keep the human at the heart of the decision and not just have that black box spitting out Daniel is or isn't creditworthy, which I think is inherently more risky. And I think what RangeTeller does is fuse those elements in a very intuitive way where we can integrate our knowledge and experience with a built-in AI.
So there's loads, the other thing as well that's been really noticeable here, Ontario is pretty close to the American border. There's been a huge shift of, the kind of neighbouring country being less of a favourable partner than previously. And that has led to, actually, province by province here, a real desire to be less stringent in your regulations to be able to trade just within the countries here. Have you seen that? Or are you seeing more of an influx of people, of appetite to want to trade with each other?
Yeah, I see a mixture of both. And I think what I do see with that is that with regulators being on top of these things and always wanting to understand more about how the decisions are made still and what's gone into that, that's an integral part of the areas that you're talking about. And having the transparency, particularly for BNPL companies and auto financiers and in mortgages, that's really an imperative part.
Huge. So while you're here then, are you hoping to speak to, so who are you kind of hoping, because it's full of people that are, fintechs or banks, or what's been your big takeout from today?
It's a great question. So we've got a big focus on North America. So not just Canada, also the United States, where there's 100 multi-hundred billion-dollar industry that we're looking to service of community and regional bank branches, as well as credit unions. There's about 80,000 there, as well as non-bank lenders, and looking to service right across the debt market. So personal loans, auto financing, mortgages, tenant evaluation, insurance. The list really goes on of that debt market, which has not really advanced in decades, and that we're looking to really offer a much more innovative and data-driven way to actually make more informed, that make more business sense for your business. Yeah.
You just mentioned the kind of debt portfolio. One of the really interesting things that we've heard from the event is how fintechs are going to help people, like, in terms of wealth management, how you can start to use apps. So, and you mentioned their debt portfolio. Are we going to see people using fintechs a bit more intelligently to maybe pay down loans more quickly? Will that affect your credit score? Is that something we can see?
Yeah, I think it will affect your credit score. The problem is, though, with the credit score is if you're not following these certain trends and rules, then people will be marginalized. And it's those people that we want to support and serve. So I think you're just typically restricted with that credit score. And I think RangeTeller will support a market of people on both sides of the spectrum, but really those underserved people, underbanked people, to give them more opportunity and access to fair credit.
So can consumers access your products?
No, our product is B2B SaaS service.
Right.
It's for banks and non-bank lenders to formulate transparent lending strategies and to really complement their existing systems, which is a combination of legacy decisioning tools, internal modeling systems, which is very hard to make meaningful changes to, and the credit score rating system.
So in terms of how this works in automotive, obviously we work in the automotive space primarily. And the podcast is designed to help people understand, I suppose, if you're having a conversation with a consumer and they're looking at buying a vehicle, how the impact of their credit score will impact their ability to borrow or finance their vehicle. What would you say to retailers at the areas that they can upskill themselves, improve their knowledge about how consumers are scored in terms of their credit rating? Is there anything that you could kind of help us to help them?
The credit decision today is out of the hands of the customer unless they follow the practices, like if they've been in the country long enough and if they've got the right income and if they've got the right credit utilization and the right balance. But if they mess any of those things, then they're then going to be marginalized. But the bank, the lender itself, has more control to support the end user or the consumer, I should say, to get a more fairer assessment. So it's really the responsibility here is on the bankers and the lenders and the retailers that you're talking about.
Okay, to kind of understand how it's done.
To be more responsible. If they want to be more profitable, then they're going to have to be more responsible and fair.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they're overlooking millions of potential clients. And when they do overlook them, they're forced to either A, go to competitors, Jackie, or maybe B, go to the black market, to loan sharks. And what we see today is there's a massive proportion of people from the underserved community who are literally swimming with sharks.
It's terrible. And there's a company here that actually provide tech for those private lenders. And I was like, are they regulated? Like, no, they're not. And there are thousands and thousands of lenders who are not regulated.
And I think what should have happened, particularly in the UK, we remember with some of the payday loan companies like Wonga, for example, I think what the government should have done was heavily regulate those entities. Instead, they basically closed them down overnight. And as a consequence of that, we've seen this rise of
other providers.
Private lenders, because people who have less than ideal credit scores, Jackie, unfortunately, are forced to go down other uncomfortable avenues to get credit. And people need access to credit to,
survive.
Survive. Get that car. That they're a grown family. Maybe a home improvement, which is an asset to them. There's a whole multitude of things they need loans for, but because their credit score has been affected, even if, again, they could be a doctor with a top salary, they may have only been in the UK for a short time, but they can't get the loans. The same with people going...
In Canada, I suppose, this way, you've got to be here for a certain amount of time before you can...
The same here in Canada or the United States. I've heard so many stories of people trying to get loans, but they haven't been in the country for long enough, but they've got, big money in the bank. they've got great income, and they've got a great company, or they've been working for a long time in a company, and they can't get that loan.
Jeez. Yeah. So I suppose it's great you've brought this product in that allows you to help those people providing that
Loans,
credit to be able to get access to the accurate data.
So really, like I said, to help them issue more loans with zero extra risk. They've got full control. They can use their local historical data. They can have a real multidimensional approach where they determine the parameters, weights, and ranges. And as we mentioned before, always keeping the human at the heart of the decision, but allowing them to blend it and fuse it with a built-in, fully integrated machine learning model.
Love that. Thank you so much.
Oh, no, that's a pleasure.
Thanks, Daniel. That was Daniel Goldstone from RangeTeller. Thanks again, Daniel. It's been great.
It's a pleasure. Thanks.
Cheers.